bit of an interesting update when it comes to Winds of Winter. We've been getting these a lot more since really 2020, the COVID pandemic. And here is one from George R. R. Martin. This is it looks like it's coming from Comedy Central. He was on the Stephen Colbert show a little bit ago, and he sort of gave an update, but we have sort of an exclusive interview that sort of continued. So I'm going to reading from a Polygon article. So George R. R. Martin says he has only another 500 pages to write on Winds of Winter. So by now, fans of George R. R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire books, the novels adapted into the Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, it's been 11 years overdue. An episode of Comedy Central series Stephen Colbert's Tuning Out the News has the latest from Martin, who says, sounding fairly sincere about it, that he's written around 1,100 to 1,200 pages of the book so far and just has another 500 pages to go, which is sort of in line when he gave another update, sort of saying he feels like he's 75% done. But this is honestly one of the first times he's actually gone and said, hey, here's about exactly how many pages I have. And this exclusive clip from Martin's episode of the show, now streaming on Comedy Central website, animated host Dr. Ike Bloom takes Martin to task, calling him a struggling writer. Let me revise that. Truly pathetic, who is having trouble meeting deadlines. He calls up hyper-prolific crime writer James Patterson, asking him for advice about how Martin can turn his work around faster. So it's sort of this like animated, funny kind of interview. Patterson first asks how far past his deadline Martin is and seems taken aback to hear how long the book has been delayed. He suggests that Martin has writer's constipation and advises him to change up his writing methods in terms of still using a DOS computer and the WordStar word processor. Maybe you should try something else because that's not working. So it's sort of this like comedic interview. What it really gets interesting is Martin's frequently expressed that he's exasperated with fans and interviews, constantly nagging him about his slow progress on the Winds of Winter, which keeps getting sidelined as he works on other HBO projects like House of the Dragon and some of the other sequel shows, as well as Fire and Blood and some of these other novels. But here he seems to at least try to force a sense of humor about the whole thing, with some awkward laughs at the roasting. Cartoon host suggests separate Winds of Winter into separate books, given that it's going to be a 1,700 page book. That really isn't possible physically. That's an enormous book. And if you remember, really, A Feast for Crows and Dance of Dragons was supposed to be one book, and some of the content that was supposed to be in Dance of Dragons is going to be shifted over into Winds of Winter. Problem solved, they're saying. You break down the 1,100 pages into a few books, you submit one per year, and you'd be ahead of schedule. And Martin just sort of laughs. So that's just kind of the interview. Really, the big takeaway from this thing is one about the page count. There's never really been any sort of official, hey, this is about how many pages this whole thing's going to have to be. And this does go in line with an update he had recently where he said he feels like the book's roughly 75% done, but now we have an idea as to exactly what that 75% means. So he's written already around 1,100 to 1,200 pages. We can cross-reference that, and we'll be coming back and doing a full big breakdown. But this is just definitely kind of an interesting takeaway to look that he's got about 1,200 pages already done. So, 1,200 pages divided by 11 years, that's roughly 100 pages per year. But we know there's some years where he didn't even touch it. So with around 400 to 500 to go, well, at that pace, we're talking it's going to take him 5 more years. But certainly it seems like he's on a much quicker pace now. So we can do our super slew thing and come back with a bigger episode to sort of dive into that. But definitely just kind of an interesting update to look at. So given the pace he's sort of been at these past few years, it's looking maybe like 2024, if I had to take a guess right now. Of course, who knows, because it's already been, 11 going on to 12 years. And some fans feel like, hey, we may never see this thing. But certainly interesting. And he's been giving a lot more updates in the past 2 years. So this is certainly a good thing, not a bad thing. So leave me a comment. Let me know when you guys think we will see Winds of Winter, what you think about this update, and anything else. Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon related. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And remember that winter is coming.